Hey, welcome to Tuesday. Oh, Tuesday came so quick from last Tuesday. If it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles hanging out with a guy on Shop Talk Tuesday, where it's live for as long as I don't have to go to the bathroom. Not just kidding. Any case, welcome if you're joining in. I had a big video that kind of dropped and stirred the pot, and hey, we're here to talk about that and various other things on the case. So anyway, I'm not in the shop, therefore I'm not going to be able to feature any particular pieces of bike tech or old tech or tools or anything like that. That's not right behind me. Any case, but we're going to talk about a few things about the cycling industry, what we're faced with, and the whole disruption of everything. And it's showing in a lot of different places, which is really crazy. A couple of things was called oh, well, it was a bicycle retailer. That's where I saw it dropped. And to be totally truthful, before I get into that, um, any case, thanks for joining me. This is live. If you're seeing this on the replay, please comment below. This is a community from amongst bike shop peeps as well as avid cyclists that are, or if you just like riding bikes and just, a recreational rider. This channel is for you too. I just kind of cover a little bit of everything. And again, if it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. And it's Tuesday, and I'm in spring break with my daughter in Las Vegas. We have a condo here. I'm sitting on the patio. I am I'm subjected to the cold temp. It's a little chillier than we would like it to be right now. It's around 50 degrees. Our high is like 60. I know that's really offending some people out there. They're in colder temperatures right now, and that's in Fahrenheit as well. But any case, we come here to have a good time, not just because of the weather, which is nice, but they do have pools and hot tubs and all that kind of thing. But thank you for joining me. And yes, we are here talking about bike industry type stuff. Absolutely. Oh, Mafia Off-Road. Oh, I'm at a Go Grava shop right now. Oh, nice, nice. Thank you for hanging out at Go Grava. Are you Mafia? Are you an employee there, or are you just somebody listening in and just shopping around and checking out stuff? But either case, awesome. Thank you for joining me. Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to talk about primarily the giant and specialized news drop this last week, and I made a short, quick video before I got in the car and drove out here because we took the long drive to Las Vegas, and it's been some very interesting, needless to say, extremely interesting events, really, and it's something one of those things where being a content creator, I do have to be yeah, mindful of the industry stuff as what that's kind of my channel. That's where one of my largest videos. It started off this whole kind of launch. I mean, initially it was kind of working on bikes and just showing old tech and stuff and that kind of thing, just to validate my shop. And that kind of blew up when I had This Is It for Specialized video about a year and a half ago now, and that one just took off. And it's amazing how much passion there is about a brand. It could be good passion or a lot of angry passion from either or customer and bike shop alike. So there was a huge insertion comments and all that. It took me a lot of time to go through that. So I knew it was going to be one of those, well, if Specialized hits the news or Merida related to Specialized hits the news, it's going to be a pretty popular piece. And as always, what I like to do is not always be doom and gloom and chicken little and clickbait. I want to put a little bit of weight to it for my perspective of being in the industry for 35 years in various shops, including maybe the brands that we're talking about. I've worked with them in those particular environments, and it's one of those things where a lot of people have different perspectives. Honestly, true, and some shops get more of the gold treatment from those particular brands. Either they have really good reps or they just do higher volume, whatever the case may be. Everybody's going to have a little bit of different perspective, but when it comes to certain brands, there's been kind of like an undertone of getting felt the same way, like having the same kind of, overall conclusion of how they are uh, basically bolstering the market, pushing their brands, forcing shops to carry inventory that they probably shouldn't be carrying for the particular markets. They looked at the world as a cookie cutter, that when you take a dealer agreement, you're supposed to carry X amount of dollars in each category of theirs, and be coming from an inventory back perspective of mine. That's the last big stint I had in a big bike shop corp world. Um, you do see a lot of like, oh, can you really absorb that and take those numbers and take those contracts and that kind of thing. So um, it is kind of interesting, and this is also I don't drink anybody's Kool-Aid anymore, which is really nice. I have the ability of just saying what I say, and nobody's going to pull my line, that kind of thing. Which when I've talked to some shops out there, they are afraid of that. They're afraid to comment on something on YouTube or make a YouTube video that looks not favorable for that particular brand, and therefore it can really be kind of hurting if that brand pulls you from the market. Because even though a bike shop should be at this stage in the game for sure, should be not like a corporate branded Kool-Aid concept store anymore. It needs to be more of their niche. And if that line disappears off their floor, people shouldn't be uh, too concerned or bummed. But then again, there's people that come in for those particular brands, and it has a good pull because they're huge. They're brand, well, that's what they call it, brand names, right? Schwinn was the same way back in the day. I mean, I was thinking about this last night, going into today's topic, and the little bit of history of what we've seen over, well, I've seen over the 35 years of some of these things have occurred before, that's affecting the market currently. But the crazy thing is they're all, if you take all those 6 different scenarios over the last 35 years and just smash them in the last 2 years, that's what we got as a pretty big hot mess. So, and some areas are more affected than others, and the markets are really, really volatile, and the weather, look at the palm trees being, I hope gives you the good warm and fuzzies of good weather going into spring and into summer, because we're a seasonal business. Cycling is, regardless if you're in San Diego, if you have windy, rainy days, your traffic's not coming in the door. Especially if you're brick and mortar. A lot of shops over the years have diversified and able to sell more stuff online, so forth. In my case, for sure, I'm a garage shop. I basically, everything's appointment only, and I ship stuff. About half my sales is out the door through shipping of one way or another, that kind of thing. Yeah, I got my Vegas Area 51 Alien Cup, it's one of those fun things we do out here in Vegas. Not that I'm really a alien chaser, no, but I like to joke with my wife, about, ancient aliens and that kind of thing. Just to, she's a scientist, so she just looks at me like you're a dumb goofus in any case. Sorry. So, well, thank you all for joining me. It is Shop Talk Tuesday. We'll let a couple more people roll in here. But just kind of the intro. Yeah, thank you for being a part of this community. And this last video was pretty huge. If you're the first time watching in this, I try to do a recap of live of the last topic that I talked about a couple days ago, and various bikes I've been working on. One bike in particular that I did work on last week was, well, 2 of them, trying to crank things out before I went out of town. What was that? There was a titanium Lightspeed. Then there was a Serrata. It was actually a steel frame, orange, bright neon, eye reddening orange. And this was a good customer of mine that brought it in, and he was trying to fix it up for a buddy of his to get it going. It's been sitting garage for a couple years. But if you want to check out the beginning and the end and everything in between of that, go to This Old Bike, there's a link underneath in the description. That's where I put those older 10 plus videos of kind of walking through and putting things in little descriptions of little historical pieces. Kind of splitting my channels up a little bit, just heads up on that. This I know I got bicycles is going to be more current and more new. It has its place, and some of those videos were older and they're like evergreen style videos. Kind of like this, well, the name of it, This Old Bike. So I kind of wanted to give it its own channel, its own place. So that's where I'm building that up. Go over there and check it out. Like and subscribe on those if you want to see more videos on that. I'm going to be cranking those up. Yeah, the weird part of me doing, well, my life right now is this spring break happens for kids, and then as parents we have to cut out time to do that. And obviously we want to be good parents and have a good time as well. Selfish and not selfish, and being what have you. So it's usually that. But the Cabda bike show was the week later, and of course wasn't coinciding with spring break, so it's like, well, close enough. I'm already, and it's in Las Vegas this year too, so that's why I'm here. But I'm out of the shop for 2 weeks, which is, if anybody's in any shop, I mean, taking 2 weeks is could be problematic. And I've worked it, so it's not so bad. But yes, sales of my transactional layer of my business and doing tune-ups has to take a pause for 2 weeks, which is going to be kind of a little slowing. But I was able to spool up. And this is the kind of silver lining of the market right now. I'm still seeing people bringing in repairs and buying small parts, and I've been doing this slow shift. Therefore, it's enabled me to do these 2 weeks without being financially bind, like too much trouble. So luckily, on the flip side of this, I'll get back in the tune-ups and doing that so forth. But I have a ton of content I've been recording, and this gives me the opportunity to sit down and just crank through some videos, and got myself a newer laptop to be able to support the weight of that, lift of memory and all that. So there's a lot of tech part of this YouTube world that being a bike mechanic, trying to do this, navigate it, has been an interesting venture. But in any case, it's all good and fun. All right, Joe. Joe, thank you for chiming in. Thank you for coming in. Absolutely. I hope it's a little bit warmer in your neck of the woods. You're up in the neighbors of the north in Canada. Absolutely. New paint job on your shop wall is very realistic. Oh, you're talking about this? This is this is live in Las Vegas, baby. Woo! Now this is family time, so we're doing family Vegas. So it's a whole different experience if you've just been a young adult into Las Vegas for sure. And realistic it is. This is no blue screen. This is the patio of our condo. We got palm trees over here, and it's a beautiful little spot for sure. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Oh, 1 degree above freezing. Jeez. Yeah. I'll make the yeah. Ju- was just yeah. Is that t-shirt weather for you Canadians when it's just crack above freezing? Because in Colorado ones we get used to the cold too, but not that extreme. But I'm sure I'm sure you do for sure. Yeah, I know you're just making a joke. Yeah, it's different scenery for sure for being out here in Las Vegas. So the Las Vegas scene has a pretty good cycling community. They do have a couple of rides that are around the Las Vegas Strip, that kind of thing. I haven't able to partake in any of those. It's just the timing. Um, but it's one of those places where I've heard people, and I've had people chime on this on Shop Talk Tuesday, that yeah, they live here, and there's like a couple places you can ride pretty safely ish, and as you would think, there's some areas that like any other, like you just want to avoid because you put yourself at harm's way. But there's a lot of and I've seen a lot of cyclists doing drives around the Red Rocks. Basically, Vegas, if you don't know, is in a bowl of surrounded by mountains, and for the most part, and beautiful. And it's a desertish climate. This time of year, it's perfect because you can go for a hike and you don't need to worry about the shade too much, and it's still fairly warm, which is really nice. and it's beautiful. So the they call it shoulder season here, which was a term that I didn't even know until I went to a bike shop locally, and it's basically spring and fall is their busiest season. So their season is split in two, and as in everybody in their environment, when it gets cold, if that's cold to you, it's like I'm not going outside. But cold to us in Colorado and Joe probably in up in Canada, if you came here in the winter and it's like 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I mean, you're like t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. I'm the crazy people going to the pool, and the locals are like in parkas. No, it's just kind of funny. But anyway, it's one of those things. Oh yeah, it's a lovely world out here for sure. Uh, oh, you're in the backyard camp. Oh, yep. I'll probably, well, I don't drink that much, but it'll be one of those, let's have a beer, or, well, I don't drink beer, but have a beverage later on. We went to, a crazy thing, side note, nothing related to cycling at all, but we went to they have local casinos. Like everybody knows the Vegas Strip, that kind of thing. It's just huge. But locally, there's several casinos that are smaller, and there's one area in Summerlin, which is a well-developed area. I think Hughes developed it back in the 50s, something like that. There's a lot of history to Vegas, believe it or not. I mean, obviously because of the Rat Pack and all that, but there's a casino there, but it had a like a bowling alley, and it's like this is a fun bowling alley. It's all lit up and it's huge, and obviously really expensive, but a great time. And we took our daughter, and we threw a couple frames, and they have a movie theater in there and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, it's even in the local areas, if it's a bowling alley or a movie theater, has definitely a touch of Vegas. Like it's a little shiny and it's kind of fun. Anyway, that's what we did. It was kind of fun last night. It was a good time for St. Patrick's Day with a kiddo. You can't really take her down to Fremont Street, which anybody knows what Fremont Street is not a good place for kids whatsoever. Any case. Uh, hmm. uh, Apple Fadal Draw. Sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name. I'm not good on title names, but in any case, thanks for joining us. Thank you for chiming in. I couldn't care less about the big brands struggling since, but they have just buy a CAD 10 and absolutely enjoy riding and wrenching on it. Nice. Yeah, Cannondale's really been really good brand over the years, even though they've been bought and sold a couple times. Pond Holdings is the current owner of Cannondale, which they've done a little kind of about a year and a half ago or a year ago. They kind of did a not so great favor for their local IBDs, local bike shops, and that kind of thing. Other than that, though, they're still making decent bikes. And I think that was one line of theirs. They were before all this complete heartache of going on in the industry. I think they were one of the brands that was thinking about doing assembly in the United States again, but I don't think that ever came to fruition. Maybe they will need to because of the tariffs, but we're all kind of honestly, we're just, I would say, kind of on pins and needles, waiting for the next shoe to drop. I mean, plug in your analogy. We're just concerned here as just individuals living in the United States, going, what's going on here, kind of thing. So we're just as um, um, I know we've kind of, you can say we did it to ourselves, and yes, you can quite argue that. Can't argue that, but a lot of us are not agreeing with what's going on, and even depending whatever. And this is, I don't want this to be political by any means, but we're basically affected by it in a larger point than we've ever had before in a long time. So therefore, please don't blame those individuals that that are representatives or got their, I don't know. It's put your explanatory in there and say what you will. We have no desire of taking, locally desire of taking over Canada or any other country, but somebody has a grand idea of it for some reason. I'm sorry, is my audio low? I did turn it up, so I do apologize, or maybe I'm just not talking loud enough. I'll double check it here, make sure. It might be my connection too. Any case, hopefully you can just turn it up. Or maybe it's the mic position. I put this big old thing on me to keep me a little warmer sitting on the patio here. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you. Thanks, John, for chiming in. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Andy, thank you for joining us. Go to the Colorado Trinidad area. Yes. Colorado native or local Colorado. Gravel ride been his dream. Local, yeah, that could be an awesome place for gravel riding. Oh, you're a part owner of a small shop. It's Giant. Nice, nice. Hopefully, Giant. I mean, I heard good things about Giant. Go Garava had a little bit about talking about Giant and how they're kind of, giving the warm hug again to bike dealers, which is a pretty nice thing to see, because a lot of other brands will need to do that. Not saying some brands have not done that. Some brands have done it for a long time. But it's one of those things where when you're looking at the larger brands have been kind of trying pushing the concept stores and all those, Kool-Aid for the last 20, 25 years. There's a lot of, I was talking to my wife last night, there's a lot of damage control within the big boys as well as the cycling environment for sure. Is it made it look like us local bike shops were just greedy little bastards, and which we're not. We're just, yeah, we really enjoyed being busy and actually showing a profit for a couple of years, but more times than often than not, we're usually having a negative deficit, even on a decent year. So, I mean, chips where they lay. Regardless, if you're in the bike industry, some shops have those kinds of seasonality hardships and so forth. And then if you're an outsider, well, I wouldn't say outsider. If you're an avid cyclist and you're just seeing a bike shop from the outside in, and you may develop some stigma. But then again, the industry really, talking about what's came to a big slam, and what I've seen. I didn't get a chance to read all the comments on the last video. I mean, there's almost over 500 of them, which is crazy, which is great. The interaction, people are talking into it. And yeah, check out the video and look at the comments and so forth. And feel free to chime in. The link of the video is in the description below. But it's just one of those scenarios where there's a lot of people that just have been angry for a long time about how the ecosystem of a lot of shops have gotten a lot of snobbery in there, or at least present themselves that way. And that's a fine line for a shop, because if you try to make a shop look too nice, then it's like almost too unapproachable, like you're too untangible for the normal folk, of riding. So there lies when Trek and Specialized did the Duke out of concept stores and made a lot of shops either, not all of them, but a lot of them had to drink, pick a Kool-Aid and go with it. And it was like end all be all of every product going in from, kibbles and housing from Bontrager to socks to helmets to everything else in circumference. They were, obviously they're a business and you want to make and brand everything to go in there. So when you walk in, it's all, the Trek concept. Same thing for Specialized from end to end. And, they had like for Specialized, the body fit or the body geometry thing going with a fitting, and then Trek picked up their precision fitting system to go with that, with retool. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but the thing is, through all that process of improving or enhancing bike shops, they were also putting them up to more of elitist position, where anybody that's looking, that has a little bit more money, they can spend, more money to be able to spend, instead of going to Walmart or Target, they're like, oh, I want to get a nicer bike, because in their head, to go on a nicer bike, back in the Schwinn days, you go into a local Schwinn dealer and you buy yourself a nicer bike, built by a mechanic. Well, that got all eroded, and then all of a sudden they just doubled down on it. And here we are, just to name one of the 7 to 10 things that have happened all at once, is here we are, they don't have a very good image from a lot of mid-range price point customers and lower, and bike shops, same scenario. They've been kind of battered around and chewed up and spit out. I've seen some shops in the last year or two that have been like a dealer for that brand for decades, and they're just like dump and picked up the other brand, and that's a huge. And when you're talking 5 or 6 locations in a particular metro area, that's a huge switch. And it's just one of those things where bike shops are, I was very fortunate to start in bike shops where the bike shops were your niche, and then the brands are kind of the background. They were like the background here. It's like the front and center was your shop. But that's where a lot of the industry is going to be forced to go to. And I think it's a good thing in a sense. And did they do it themselves? Well, you can really argue that point. For sure, and they could do a lot better. And that's the whole thing. The whole concept behind it is they could have done a lot better sooner, and then later, and then not worry about just their P&L statements as much. But any case, but yeah, then when you see the compound of Giant, same day, they must have some Taiwan business release date, which I may not have been really pertinent to, but they're releasing their numbers, and both Giant and Merida released their numbers, and it really, I mean, they try to sugarcoat it like any company is when they're not doing so well, and they kind of pinpoint and put the blame on things, on certain areas where they feel they need to cut or improve or whatever. And that's what it was in both articles, and we'll show that here. In any case, well, thanks for joining me. If you're just joining in, this is Top Talk Tuesday, and we were talking about the last um, article piece. I usually feature a bike and so forth. I can still feature a bike. I got a B-roll I can put up, but we'll talk about this here first. Let's see. Do a screen share. Uh-oh. Oh, a new computer situation here. Maybe I need a... Okay, give me 1 second. Gotta have to have all the permissions. Alright. See if I can... Industry news. Alright, there we go. Okay, this is kind of cool. I can actually see what I'm doing here. Alright, so yeah, the two big ones. And yes, I mean, honestly, I've been waiting for a big some news piece, because it's one of those things I've been, watching all this kind of unfold, and I think it's in our human nature to want to watch a train wreck, but we don't want it to be in our backyard. But here we go, right? It's one of those things that they're having some problems. I mean, obviously, how could they not? I mean, because everybody's having some issues. From smaller brands are more chiming in of showing pain and so forth. So this is under bicycle retailer. So the links are below, also in the description, if you want to take to read it yourself. And basically, they had a huge, like, $105 million loss, and they're actually relating it to specifically 35. In this article, it says 35% of Specialized is invested by Merida. And if you don't know Merida, Merida is one of the big manufacturers in Taiwan, up there with Giant. And Giant has their own brand, but also Giant builds a lot of other bikes, which also Giant builds, or has, or used to, or still does build Trek, which is another. So they build their own brand, and Merida has their own line as well, but you don't see it in the United States because they don't want to conflict, or they have contract agreements with Specialized, whatever they may be, not to sell Merida in the United States, but in European markets and elsewhere, you'll see a Merida brand. And then I don't really see that line, so I can't tell you if it's exactly the same thing or is it a completely different line. But it looks like the people that have commented, it seems like a completely different line, a bike-ish. The various is what they can between, and if everything's being made in the same facility, you're going to have a lot of similarities. Like giant bikes, and you'll see some trucks and look really close to the same. But they do have spec differences or more geometry differences possibly within theirs. But what was intriguing to me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of numbers and you're comparing it to their currency and so forth, but they really did throw the specialized retail stores under the bus. Um, yeah, there was like 92% came, where were it? Under the retail stores, right there. So when you're looking at the retail stores, and well, we've been hearing a lot of chatter about truck stores closing, and the truck had a lot of corporate stores. That's where Specialized was chasing them. In that perspective, that means truck. I mean, obviously, truck is hurting because they did the right size leak memo this last year, and it didn't go over well. And 40% of reduction is SKUs under track, and they're still, they got to be still right sizing their company. And everybody is. I mean, it's just even myself, even in a small little micro shop of mine, I'm doing the same thing of right sizing or right adjusting, doing what I can to best uh, basically help the current market, which for my scenario is service, providing a lot more service, doing a lot more work there, not just be stuck at just doing tune-ups. I've opened up doing small repairs here and there on one-offs, that kind of thing. In addition to, instead of selling complete bikes, I've been selling parts and frames, which was the older business model that I had back 20 plus years ago, where I just buy bikes, strip them, and sell the parts as a business. And there's a few on eBay, and some other shops do that too. But that right now is more lucrative than trying to sell a complete bike, because the margin on the complete bike, even in the used market, is shrunk down, which, you know, you know, I'm glad to see Pros Closet come back, but and it should do really well because the used market's going to be basically the win here for the next year or two. But quite honestly, it's all about price point. So you got to make sure your prices are reflected to the market of demand, and that demand is pretty much anything under 1,000, not above. Quite honestly. So looking at the giant, going into the article I here, I pulled up, down 60%. Yeah, that's pretty huge, and it's another ouch, definitely, and it's a short read, but it's another ouchie in theirs, for sure. Well, yeah, then you compile the both those. Those are your two huge manufacturers in Taiwan, right? And they're both are going, we're not doing so great. The numbers are not good. On top of the article of, it's even probably further down here, Shimano being down, but although they've done enough cuts within their organization to still show a profit, so it's down there somewhere. So not to get you too dizzy here looking at my screen. And in any case, that's what we're kind of looking at in a painful scenario. But yeah, it's not great. So when you're looking at those two powerhouses of building majority of those upper end bikes, that goes into the United States. Okay, they've been a shift. Like Trek's been shifting some manufacturing into Cambodia and Thailand, or not Thailand, Vietnam, or maybe Thailand and Vietnam, or a couple other of those Asian markets have been kind of shifting over. Kind of probably a good portion is the threat of China keeps on wanting to blow up Taiwan or take it over. So there's a risk factor for sure. And then it's just the global market of business. So you diversify. Well, if you can get equal to better products being made somewhere else, but cheaper even yet, yeah, they're gonna move and do it. That's why Trek stopped building in the United States in 2007, 2008. They couldn't compete with the tech and as well as the price. So they really had to shift everything over. They're trying to build. They had a good chunk of their line being the frames built and assembled in the United States up to that point. They were trying to do like 80 to 90% of their whole line. They did a really good go of it. Give them that. But man, when they realized the carbon manufacturing was so much better over in Taiwan and Specialized being made in Merida, they really had a shift. really quickly. A reason being of not letting the general purchasers out there know there's a not an equal apples to apples, even though they put a lot of tech into it. I could be completely wrong, but I think I heard that actually from an engineer for a former engineer from Trek that was in Taiwan. That shift was in part of that transitional period as well. But in any case, so there alludes the scary of the scary articles that came up. Oh, no worries, Randy. Thank you for joining in. Hey, you got a customer. Take care of the customers. I mean, if any means, watch this on the replay by all means. This is not something, you can chime in when you have time. That's why it's usually lengthy, that kind of thing. But yeah, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate it. And, honestly, how I feel about it personally, about seeing Specialized and Giant showing bad numbers, it's twofold. Well, one, I always wanted them to do better and be better with their dealers, independent bike dealers, but they've really shifted away from that. But I still don't want to see them fail. I just want them to do better and take care, well, forward facing the customer, which all those companies should be really looking for, and not just I mean, nothing against racers or any of that, but that's a smaller percentage. You have a bigger percentage of customers and cyclists out there that are just recreational riders. So those are the customers that really need the help, the price points, the service, all those things. So it's kind of like they walked away from it, and now that's where only the market's going to be left right now for a while, for sure. Oh yeah, Joe. Customers always come first. They walk in the door, you drop anything. Like, hey, what do you need? That kind of thing. Can I help you with anything? That kind of. They're the ones that, yep, absolutely. Pay the bills. Um, you can't sit there and be just drooling over that $10,000 tarmac in the back and going, oh wait, hold on, we're not done drooling yet. It's like no. It's like you gotta take care of them. That's another thing too. That's where a lot of the shops. I mean. Here's the thing. In my perspective, I worked for Big Five Sporting Goods store, which is a chain, sporting goods chain in the western part of the United States. Mainly they started from California, so anybody from Cali knows Big Five. And when you walk into Big Five, you don't get smacked with a high-end elitism kind of feel when you do walk into some other sporting goods stores that are like Cabela's, which is really high-end stuff, or maybe REI has some of that kind of high-end feel to it. But Big Five did not. That's where it's like more competitive in that lower market where it's more inviting for people to go and shop. And they always seem like they get a sale of some sort, that kind of thing. So sorry if the wind is starting to, if you're hearing it, it's starting to get breezy here. So hopefully it's not disruptive. But looking at that in correlation to bike shops, I mean, where a lot of shops, I mean, even though if they have a high-end market, they need to start rethinking like, oh, walk your store like you would if you were a district supervisor of a chain and kind of see how the customer feels or you're representing, or going to some of those other stores that are not bike shop related and walk those stores and see if, how they feel. Okay, this is going to sound weird, and there's something going on in the weird tea leaves of crystal balls that, yeah, I just said crystal balls. Any case, Dick's Sporting Goods, going to crystal balls to Dick's Sporting Goods, plug in your analogy there. Any case, Dick's Sporting Goods shown a profit, and they've shown several profits, quarters, in the last couple of years when everybody's been seemed to be really struggling. So if they're showing a profit and REI is basically cutting everything they can to survive, they got to be doing something right. And could that be just customer service? Well, personally, when I walked into an REI, I didn't see, well, I saw a lot of employees. Did I get any employees come up to check if I needed anything? That was a big goose egg. I mean, I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, you have all these people working here, but nobody's really approaching a customer, just walking around to 3 different departments and not at once going, hey, we can help you look something. And that was a couple months ago. I do have to admit, that was a couple months ago. But when I walked through just recently Dick's Sporting Goods to look for those fuzzy shoes for my daughter, she likes not the Uggs, bear claws, whatever, bear paws. That's what they are, or something like that. Um, I went to go see, and man, I was approached 3 different times, and they had like only 3 people on staff that I could see. So the 10th of the staff load, but I got approached more often. Weird, right? So you'd kind of think, well, just that alone is one of the many things that Dick's Sporting Goods is doing correctly to show a profit versus REI having kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a part of their thing, but crystal ball bearings. Hey, ceramic crystal ball bearings for you, my friend. Yeah, anyway, case in point. Where was I? But yeah, it's when you're looking at when I worked at Big Five Sporting Goods, a chain, we were always, the corporate, what was nice is pretty much it was a self-promoting company. So your supervisor, your regional supervisor, even the CEO, they all worked the store at one point, starting off as a manager trainee. So that's a case where everybody knows everybody's position pretty well. They lived it. So you don't have a lot of misunderstanding in some cases. So where they really were pushing was that customer service, like approach them, and they teach you these little tricks of not like be pushy and that kind of thing. Soft sell, that's what it's called in retail. And it worked really well. It's one of those things where, the customer is not offended and they feel like they are, even though they knee-jerk reaction, like, no, I'm just looking. It's like, that's fine. And you go back and it's like, oh, that's a nice looking shoe you're looking at. You want to check your size or something like that. It's like more of a, it's more approachable. Well, you walk into, we're talking about specialized. You walk into a specialized store, you may get approached, yes, but what you're looking at is absurd amount of expensive product, and it's really high-end stuff. It doesn't feel warm and fuzzy. Let's put it that way. It feels sterile, if in my opinion, for sure. Yep, got my Alien 51. I don't know if I. No, that's in New Mexico, right? Yeah, I don't know why they have well, it's Vegas. They have a theme for everything, right? Any case. And Josh at Precision E-Bike, shout out to you. Well, hopefully we'll be seeing you next week at Cabda. Woo! But in the meantime, we'll be hanging out with the family, and then I'm going to be painting the condo, whichever direction it is. Yeah, that we bought this condo a couple years ago, and it has like this. I don't know what kind of brown yellow it is. It's just ugly. Like it's earth tone-ish, and we just want to give it a little more of a modern. And this gives me an opportunity a few days before the show starts and the family will fly back, so I can do all that. So me and the little chippers, or little Yorkie, will be painting the condo. Any case, so I'll be out here. But yeah, Josh, let me know, ping me when you're thinking of being in town. And we'll definitely connect for sure. Doug, you're the one that lives here. It's blustery. It was super windy yesterday. I'm very impressed that palm trees can just hold up to all this wind. It's crazy. Any case, yeah, that's where we're at for sure. But just looking at that, and is it a shocker to anyone of the state of the state where we've been, if you're been cycling, walking in your bike shops, talk to your bike shop people, all to the people that are working in shops and seeing some people getting laid off, and or you've been laid off yourself of either seasonality, but some shops they just lay off people seasonality wise, and that's hard to do. You've been a management structure, it just sucks, but that's just how a lot of shops kind of survived over decades. Not saying it's the right thing or the wrong thing, it's just how it was. But it now just seems a little more extreme. Like it's just everybody's worried about a lot of things, and the customers are worried about a lot of things too. We're all we're all nervous. Let's put it that way. From customers to bike shop owners, even though if we're doing well, we're still nervous because it could switch. If you've been around long enough, it could turn on a dime and make it even worse. And then you're really in a hurt. Like now, what are you going to do? A lot of shops over the years have downsized. They just For a while, they're making a huge footprint, and now they're reducing and cutting their stores in half and renting the other side out or what have you. Um, and it's like we're all cautious. Even if we're doing well, we're all cautious. So when you're looking at the Merida and the Giant releasing news, it's like, well, this is really kind of not a shocker. It's kind of nice to see actual numbers, because it's right now it's just a gut feeling. But when you're looking at how everything's going to cost for us in the States for selling bike chains and so forth, which was another article that released. And I don't think maybe I did read it, but it was more of a speculation on what the steel is going to, tariffs are going to cost us, and that affects under the category of chains and cables. And granted, that's where our deeper margins are in parts, but that's where we make our money to offset the loss of margin in bike sales. So if you're cutting a revenue stream where a customer typically doesn't mind paying that because it's more of a convenience for them. It's like, oh, I got this chain for $35 to put on your bike. They can probably go find it for 30 or 25, but they're there to support you, your shop, and of having it. And and us Americans, we have like this instant gratification problem, and we have to have it done. Like, oh, I got this idea like 10 seconds ago. It needs to be done like now, or want it now. So therefore, that's what we're dealing with. And when we're looking at vendors like J&B, which if you're a cyclist and don't know, we have the 2 or 3 main vendors that we get that are not from the big boys like Trek, Specialized, and Giant. One's bicycle and a beat. No, sorry. Uh, J&B Importers, JBI. There's QBP, Quality Bike Supply, or products. Sorry, and used to be Seattle Bike Supply. I don't know if they're still around. In any case, then there's BTI. Not sure what the acronyms for that one, but chime in if you do. But those are like where we'd get like the chains and cables and tires and tubes. And there is one influencer out there that has a bike shop and does only used stuff. And it's like you need to shop them. Like check which one of those 3 has the better price on X chain that you're trying to get for yourself or for stock or customer. Wow, it's getting windy. So if my camera falls over, that you just lost my phone. In any case, it's getting blustery out here. But looking at those companies, they are already, if not already have, increased their prices. And I heard one of them is going to increase by 10%. But when you're looking at a margin on a chain at 10% up, and then when you're looking at competitor online sales like Jensen's USA or 365 Cycles, and they have their stuff still on sale at a lower price point, that puts the bike shop, which has always been the case with performance bike back in the day, puts us even in a pinch trying to provide or carry in stock. So we're going to have to either buy more bulk to bring the price down, or the more shops are just going to reduce what they're carrying on hand because they don't want to be stuck with the high price items, especially in 3 months from now, or who knows, it may go down. It's like watching the stock market for your parts, and that's almost impossible to run a business on if you're looking just selling parts in itself or bikes, for sure. Max, thanks for joining in. I'll blame manufacturers for overproducing is silly. Well, yeah. I mean, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Manufacturing is more difficult than retail. It's different. Let's just agree on that. It's a different scenario. Yeah, manufacturing, you have to have lead times and all that and have a crystal ball to produce enough product in the future. But manufacturing is what dictates a lot of products that hits the floor too. So is retail easier? No, I've been doing retail for 35 years. It's tough. You guys from manufacturing have your freaking weekends off. We work the weekends to get through to the week. So it's a different bit for sure. Oh, bikes are more than toys, man. All right. Bye bye. Yeah, somebody's really had to remove that. Sorry if you guys saw that. And Max, sorry, I had to, you're just being too aggressive. I'm saying this is a safe space for us. You can chime in other people's channels. But in any case, there are some people that are don't. I'm just gonna say that right now. Some people just don't understand it. And yeah, if you worked retail for a long time, yeah, yeah, if you worked retail for a long time, you know what you know. And if you're in the manufacturer, I've talked to a lot of people in the manufacturing field. John Bradley is one of them, and and others. And yes, I know those insights too. So it's a tough struggle for everybody. Joe, thanks for chiming in. Appreciate it. Josh at Precision, yes. Bikes are a great local transportation. Yeah, I mean, come on. Look at Europe, right? Um, the Bronton bikes, for example, they're like the craziest looking clown bike, but they're the most popular and practical for a lot of people. They don't have cars. That's their vehicle, like that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, self-employment in retail is tough. It's rough. I mean, I don't stop working. Like I wake up, drinking coffee, answering emails, and going late at night, checking bike parts and lists and orders and get my day, and that's like at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So my window of working as an independent sole person works really hard, and yeah, I don't, but I enjoy it. That's the thing. I really enjoy it. That's for sure. Oh, let's see. Oh, who makes your bike? Yeah, there's a lot of people don't know. I mean, yeah, there's those little stickers that say either made in Taiwan or made in China, but you don't know what brand or what facility it's making out of those. Yeah, thanks for chiming in. Because yeah, it's really kind of hard to figure out who in what. Because I try to Google up who Merida makes what other brands besides Specialized. That's really hard to find. Honestly, it's really hard to really figure out who's making who because it's basically white labeling those particular brands, that kind of thing, in a sense. I mean, not completely, but it is in some level for sure. Oh yeah, thanks for chiming in, Joe. Yeah, Brontons are great. I worked on a couple of them. I have a customer that loves them, and they're like they have their own culture. It's just so cool. I mean, I love all. I mean, some cycling I don't get into. I'm not a BMX rider, but I appreciate it, right? And I understand the draw to it. And Brompton's is the same kind of crazy little culture. It's awesome. It's people love them. Their bikes are super silly expensive, but that's their thing. They're all customized, and it's kind of nuts. I was talking to a really good customer of mine, and he loves to travel, and he was talking about it's like, oh, I love them, and I love riding them, and I love able to put them in the case, and you go to like a foreign country, and you pop them out, and you go ride around and see and all that. And it's like, and I had to stop him for a second. It's like, so the question really is is it the Brompton that makes you have a great experience, or is it just the experience itself? And if it was like a department store Huffy, regardless, something super inexpensive, would you be like, I love this because I'm having a great time? So I think part of it is the experience of where you're at and what you're doing, but the other part is it's something to have that convenience to be able to pop something out that fits you, and to some level, and you're having a great time. That's all about having those great experiences. And cycling is supposed to be a really good experience scenario for a lot of us. It's not necessarily how fast I can go, what time I can beat, how light my bike can be. It's just getting out there and riding and have a smile on your face. And Kurt, the guy I've interviewed and worked on his bikes, look up his video of mine in my library. He has the greatest perspective of being retired and just riding. I mean, it's just awesome. It's just like I want to be there someday. Oh, the bicycle rider. Thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. Owner of a local bike shop. Actually, ride my bike to work. Yeah, and listen to the podcast. Oh, thanks you. Thank you for listening. How's your riding? I was on the phone. All those I've been actually working since sunrise. Yeah, I mean, our day starts when we open our eyes. I mean, for cycling, for a lot of us in the cycling community, working at shops, it's like, oh, I got to work on this. I got to do that order. Yeah, and the brick and mortar is hard because you're ball and chain to those hours of operation, open and to close, for customers, forward facing. But there's a lot of stuff that we need to do, that we need to be not interrupted to doing orders. I remember doing a whole bunch of parts orders and stuff, coming in at 7 morning in the bike shop back even in the 90s, and writing my orders up and getting them called in or whatever prior to opening a business, because I would not have time to do that during the day. Plus also trying to get a couple of repairs busted out that are due that day as well. So it's a lot of hats, literally, they have to keep switching out. But at the end of the day, if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like that much work. You just enjoy doing it. And yeah, and you get paid to do it. That's even better. Thanks for chiming in, Ryder. Ryder, appreciate that. Yeah, everybody, read Randy's comments. See if anybody can chime in on how their bike sales are doing, if in repairs. And also, is there a shift? Is there been a shift in the last 6 months to a year of sales have slowed and services have increased? And was that a deliberate move on your behalf of trying to, um, take care of the customer community in that direction, not necessarily try to make a profit, which we all need to try to make a profit, but that's the way our really art and passion is driven by trying to help. And if you see more of a demand in that direction, that's where the opportunity is to actually make a profit and pay your people. Oh, all right. Can you guys still hear me, or did my mic die? Savings. I mean, I have my own. Jamie, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. I do have my own website, but it's my retail front website. I know a guy bicycles.com. Okay, audio is good. I just got a notification on my StreamYard that I'm using here that my mic might be dead. Thank you, Joe, for letting me know. Thanks, Josh, for letting me know. Oh, the bike guy mobile. Yeah, busy, but not 2020. Yeah, I don't think anybody was 2020 busy anymore. I think it was like I don't know if I've ever been that busy. Maybe one random summer in the 90s was that insane. Yeah, and if you can keep your costs, like myself, out of a garage, you keep your costs of running business low, you can weather some of these up and down blips. But unfortunately, if you're a bigger shop, then you have to start making some harder decisions, and especially if you're brick and mortar. And if you've been around and been in the industry for a long time, you really kind of, even if you do open up a new location or what have you, you kind of take that a grain of salt of anticipation of like, how is this rent gonna, or whatever costs are gonna affect during the slow times, because that's kind of like you have to build your business model on the worst year, and then you have the best chance of making it work. Um, we had, we expanded in Parker Bikes days. We expanded 3 times, and the third time killed us. We expanded at the wrong time, added too much rent. We did a lot of remodeling, and then we had a really flat, bad season, and a combination of other things and personal alike. My dad came down with cancer that time, so we were dealing with that as well. We were done in about 9 months. Like, we were doing okay, and train wrecked it so fast, and that was such a heartbreak. And part of that, of one of many, was we expanded when we shouldn't have. I mean, that was one of those things. So, cost of doing business. That's why I'm in the garage now. At home, all my expenses are really low. I do get the inkling of the urge of wanting to open a location at some point, and I'm like, I talk myself down every time, like, oh, that's so dumb. Just keep what I'm doing because I won't be making more. It's just I would just have more problems to deal with. Will come down to so that my my perspective. I guess more money in repairs and selling new bikes. Yeah, my case in point for what I do. I mean, it's a small shop. I do small volume, but it's the same reflection of regular retail because for example, I buy a bike, a used one, and I fix it up. So you got that. But it's like if I'm buying a bike at $300, I put time and labor into it and parts, and looking at it like my cost is around five, and I'm trying to sell that for 700. Well, that $700 bike in the used market now is not selling. Um, all. So that's pushing that down. So that's where I've had a flip from selling full bikes to just bikes with parts. So when I buy that $300 bike, I'm not putting $100 to $200 of parts into it. I'm basically parting it out. So I'm putting just my time and cleaning supplies and all that into it, which cuts that cost down. But yet then I can still make that profit margin of that 30 to 40% that I'm trying to hit through a parted out bike versus a full complete bike. At a long time, I felt very painful about doing something like that. It's basically a chop shop for parts. But in the flip side, though, a lot of cyclists out there, they want to upgrade or revamp their old bikes and vintage parts, and you're supplying that. And some people just like buying frames and putting them together themselves to whatever they want. Um, so it's one of those things. Any case, that's where one of the things I've had a shift on my part of it, and looking at the shift from service away from selling bikes. That puts a lot of brands at risk because a lot of shops are not willing to commit to those bigger preseason orders and so forth. They just don't have the money to do it, or it's not the foot traffic or sales to to follow up with it. Let's see. Yeah, service is something you can really. I mean, there's a flip side of service too, because you got to have the right people to work on those bikes, um, and to be able to do the volume. If you have the right crew to do it, that's great. You can really push out that volume. Sounds like a money laundering front. uh, So here's the thing of manufacturing parts. I mean, my experiences have been great where I did work with a brand that was building a lot of stuff in the United States, Trek, and up to 2007. And but the thing is, it's a lot more complicated than that because a third of the bike was being built in the United States. The frame painted and fork, and sometimes the wheels, but the componentry is still all made overseas. A bicycle is a hodgepodge of different brands to complete it. It's not, back in the only time that I can recall, and I've been schooled on this by John Bradley, was, and you can look at the video, is a Schwinn American, which was built in Chicago, and their facility in Chicago made everything from spoke nipples to spokes to tires to pedals to the chain. Everything was made in the United States. But that was the last time that we can make a complete bike from end to end in the United States. So, it's just a kind of a misnomer that, like, oh, we just need to build stuff here. Well, it takes years to tool up to do that, if not decades, to do it in an efficient manner to earn a profit. So unfortunately for big companies, brands, they're not going to do that. They'll do other things like assembly plants and so forth, which a lot of foreign companies that have moved into the United States have done in the auto industry. I mean, like Honda, I think, does that. They have assembly plants here, but a lot of stuff is made like in Canada and brought back over. And then you got the raw material tariffs. I mean, come on. I mean, for us to build stuff here, we got to have materials cheap to build it, which so the whole, I mean, the tariff thing is so complicated, and it's hard for anybody to get their head around it, especially a bike mechanic. But all you know is all of a sudden your stuff's getting more expensive, and you have to charge a higher price, and customers are not going to want to do that kind of thing. But on the tariff front, there is that de minimis tariff, which those are not tariff. Basically, it's a block where if you're shipping into the United States and it's parts are under $800, it doesn't have to go through the whole tariff process or customs even, and it goes direct to the consumer. Well, that's where the anybody who's manufacturing in the United States, especially like bags and tubes or anything, which we're not doing tubes, sorry, but like bags and packs and lights and all that, are being undercutted by those companies that are overseas coming in for a lot cheaper rate. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. And it's changing in real time, and we don't know. I mean, you know, one painful afternoon, and 2 weeks from now, we may not have that tariff. It might be no longer effect, and the prices may go down. So again, if you're a bike shop, you're going to be very reserved of buying an inventory that you're going to sit on or for seasonality, you're just going to buy what you need on demand because it's like the stock market prices. You want to definitely buy it when it's low, but who knows what the low is going to be in that case, and should you really stock up on it? Because we don't know what our seasonality is going to be at all now either, because that's all out the window because of the economical structure of people. Maybe the service department's a little more stable, but if you're looking at bikes, that's all over the place. That's really hard to think about. Yeah, I mean, even to respond to the bike guy mobile, when you're doing labor, yeah, the labor is a good portion of profitability, but you still have overhead costs that you need that labor to eat up. So yeah, he's saying 95% for it. That means 5% is operational costs or somewhat, but you got to add those operational costs to your labor rate to that is so especially if you have paid employees, and that's another cut that goes in there. So it's about a pie chart of economics, right? But in the day though, um, yeah, when you're looking at bikes, you're lucky to get 30 to 35% margin, and when even in the higher end, more expensive ones, the margin goes down, which blows my mind. I mean, yeah, you're making a bigger dollar amount. Let's say you're like, oh, I made $1,000 off that one bike. Well, how much invested did you have to get into that bike to be able to get it on the floor, built up, ordered, shipped, and all that? And yeah, that $1,000. Well, you probably put 3,000 plus into that bike. So at the end of the day, where did you really make a margin of 20% or net profit, maybe 15, and then that gets lost. so so yeah, you can talk of bike shop economics. This is crazy. Well, but also you need to look at it too. This is how I always looked at it. Is like a bike shop's not just one business; it's multiple business within that one umbrella. So you got the sales, right? You got the accessory sales, and you got your bike sales, which has also now been split off in its own little business of fittings and so forth. And then you have your service department, which that's split up in different categories too, because you got your straight up service doing tune-ups and so forth. But you have the back end of bike builders building up bikes and assembling those things, or even if you have exercise equipment or anything else, same kind of thing. So you got that split up in several departments in a sense. So when you're looking at a bigger operation, that could be like 3 or 4 different businesses. And then you have buyers or you have your buyer hat for each one of those perspectives. It gets complicated real quick, real fast. So it's it's a very challenging business, retail. So somebody chiming in that retail is not that hard, that's ridiculous. Um, anyway, that's my small opinion for a small shop, small, but I'm not all that small. Yes, Randy, you're correct. We need to keep our focus, taking care of our community, taking care of our customers, and drive forward. And however that is, through doing events or popping up tents on the bike path on the weekend in the mornings for a couple hours. There's a lot of little things we can do to make a big impact and help our business as well as doing so, but also help the community for cycling to flourish. Yeah, it sounds like a sales pitch right there, didn't I? uh, Yeah, van parts and gasoline is the big cost. So that's where the mobile part, man, I mean, it's tough because you got a vehicle, you're driving, you got time is another one. Time has to be another big factor to that for being mobile. Um, I mean, that's where you have to add those labor rate costs to that. I mean, it's the convenience factor of a customer, right? They should expect to be paying more instead of taking their bike to a bike shop. The bike shop's coming to them. There's a fee for that, and they should be comfortable with that fee. In that case, in a lot of cases, it does work out. A lot of people are like that. I mean, we pay a convenience fee for having our groceries delivered because I don't have time to go wind around the grocery store for an hour with my daughter because she's wanting to look at all these other things, which is fine when it's family time, but when you're like a work day, I need to get back in the shop and start doing some tune-ups or videos or whatever the case may be. Oh yeah, there you go. That's how that works. $40 show-up fee. Yep, that's the only way it'll be viable. So if anybody has a shop and they're thinking about doing mobile as an addition to that, you got to think about that too. Plus, you're taking that one employee out of the mix of the ecosystem in your shop. But however it works for you, that's great. Um, so I mean, if you want to do the chase on that, that's fine. I just found, you know, being in a garage, and I didn't think this would work. To be honest, to be quite honest, I did a test run back in 2019, 2018 is when I like did the test run, and it's like, oh well, I'll repurpose some bikes, list them, and see if anybody will feel weird coming to my house. And it turned out to be not a problem at all. And COVID, having people doing a lot of that anyway, working from home, I kind of set like the tone of it. So having a garage shop, it was it's actually not a problem at all. So I'm actually keeping my costs even lower than having a vehicle, and like the bike guy mobile is saying about cost of gasoline and travel and time and all that. But if you build that in, then you're still getting paid for traveling. And then you write off all those mileage. Hopefully that's a little extra kickback on the taxes. But then again, labor is not tax. Well, you still have the income on that. So anyway, yeah. We just finished our taxes. This is horrible. So much to keep track of. Oh, nice. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah. Uh, I've had one of those before. I'm in a really good relationship now, but I've had a divorce before, and it train wrecked everything. But I'm in a lot better place for sure. In any case, it's one of those things. Yeah. Whatever the case, if you could split, work back to that level of mobile to back into a location, a garage or whatever, that kind of thing. But if it's working for you, that's great. And Salt Lake's a beautiful place, and that's a huge cycling community. I mean, it's huge. Um, One of the people that I worked with Retail Toolkit was Beam Cycles, which you'll know, and they have multiple locations. And uh, is it Angela that owns it now? She's really nice and really, really good person. So, but yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, Precision e-bike. Yeah, you have five people who come around. Well, you're so specific niche in the e-bike world that like you get like me in a sense too. I've had people come up very very great distances and I'm just baffled. But they want me to work on their bikes, which is great. And they're driving an hour, hour and a half to come drop off their bike and make an appointment to come pick it up at a later date. So, and some people just want that feeling, that warm hug, not in a weird way. Hey, David, welcome. Thank you for joining in. You're not too late. I'm sitting out here in sunny Las Vegas, but it's still chilly. It's starting to creep in. I'm starting to get a little cold, so my coffee is definitely cooled down. But yeah, yeah. Oh, you're getting buried in repairs. Well, that's a good problem to have, right? That's just a problematic repair. I mean, how many of those mechanics of you guys out there have gotten that repair? It's like my dad would make a joke about it. It's like same bike, second day repair. Like, okay, here we go again. Let's get this thing figured out. And that was back then when bikes were supposedly simple, according to that one guy. Like, nothing's simple. But anyway, they just got more complicated, and even then so, and then they got weird. But yeah, and talking about like the giant and specialized, and there's been a lot of people that have been complaining like we need to bring simple bikes back, like to manufacture, like you can work on them yourself, because they apparently there's been definitely a mission. Somebody admitted that within the industry, or also was part of a bike, and actually the manufacturer openly admitted that I think it was like 2010 or 12, somewhere on that range, where they're like, yes, we are making bikes complicated on purpose. Following the auto industry, therefore, people can't work on their own bikes like people can't work on their own cars now. Therefore, we've provided a more follow-up service costs for those shops to charge, because they have to have more specialty tools. They have to have the technical training, and yes, that falls all in line with the hydraulics, electronic shifting, and all that that's been going forward. Which I get. I mean, I'm not against those technologies. But they're not like they're not standardized as for tooling and all that like they were in the 90s, where you had one or two bottom bracket tools. That was it. I went to go buy new bottom bracket tool fittings with a torque wrench, and holy crap, I ended up spending like $350 on various fittings for various other ones, which only will maybe use once in a while on some of them, which is just, I mean, nuts. And if you're a bigger and doing volume, a lot of those tools or fittings that I found were aluminum, which at some point will wear or warp and not have a great connection. So you'll have to get another set of them. I mean, individually they weren't too expensive, like 20 to $25. But when you need to buy like six of them to cover the spectrum of the current bottom brackets, that's just the bottom bracket. And then you go on to every other part, it's just nuts. So, tooling is, I doubled down and put a lot of money into tooling last year. Hence reason I'm doing a lot more service. Therefore, I'm getting more bikes that are not what I'm specifically looking for to buy the flip or to part out, because I know those, I have the tools for those. I'm getting repairs coming in that I don't have the right tools for, that I have to make sure I do, not basically put myself or my customer at risk of not, using the right tool for the right job. So another added cost layer of retail service, right? That's a good idea, Randy. Have like a monthly meeting, kind of like a webinar. Would that be webinar based, where you get to see your logos on, or your shiny happy faces, kind of thing? If you kind of like the YouTube version of the P2 group for those who can't afford a P2 group. I mean, I don't have nothing against the MBDA them at all. I'll be seeing some of those peeps next week, because they're having their big conference thing the day before CABDA, which is on Tuesday. But it typically is, there's a cost to that, and to be part of that organization, it's kind of expensive. So when you're a small shop like mine or any other, you guys have a one-man individuals, is like I can't add that to my plate of expenses. In addition to some of those, they have like the P2 ones will have meetings, so you have to go fly somewhere and be part of their club. Um, when you get to that level, that's great. But if you don't have, that ability, something of a smaller scale might be a lot more beneficial, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I'll think. Yeah, I'll chew on that. I'll talk to some of you guys while you guys are here for cabinet and see if there's something like that we can come up with, some kind of a, because again, I look at it as a community thing where it's, well, that was part of like community back in the '90s. Like you go to the bike show and you run to a lot of the bike shop peoples that small, large, small, whatever size the shop would go to, and now, um, the shops kind of get isolated, right? You just, if you don't do like a community like on YouTube or something like that, you're basically just you doing your thing, and if you're not walking to the local bike shops by time to because you're working all the time to jitter jabber, and then again, so some of the shop owners may just do that. Yeah, I know at least a good handful of you guys that we can build up a pretty decent sized one pretty quick. There's a lot of individual even in my neck of the woods. There are just a few, single individuals doing the bike shop thing. Yeah, and it'd be a great way to share ideas and come up with plans to help other people out in a sense like, well, I do this well in my shop, and this doesn't do well in mine. And granted, you can share your markets too. It's like, some people's markets are a lot more challenging than others for various reasons, for sure. And it doesn't have to be just specifically to bike retail. It's retail in general. That could be part of it too. Yeah, absolutely. Randy has a great point there. The big guys, they will, even as much as probably Giant is probably putting a better face on of helping the local individual bike shops, or their independent bike shops that they're selling to. But really, their bottom line, or basically for their bottom line, is they're worried about themselves, and they only will leverage that to be nice if it shows to be profitable or more profitable for them. But as soon as they get too much Kool-Aid in their system, then they're like the other ones, or back to where they were before. Um, but yeah, I mean, and not to knock. I know. I mean, there are good people that work for those companies, and they all have a heart and passion. I've talked to a lot of those too. But overall, though, um, you're everything is dictated by the owner or the structure above you. So you may have a good sales rep, and they do really good for you. But once that sales rep gets replaced or moves on, the new up and comer may not be as great or not be as understanding and go to bat for you. It was, like I felt like sometimes our bike reps were like the liaison between the corporate, like, oh, I'm going to go back for you so you can get these bikes in or better terms or whatever the case may be. That could have been all fluff too. I could have been just like naive, like, oh yeah, you did a really good job of helping us out, of making us overbuy a product that we should have didn't need in the first place. Oh man, I don't miss those days whatsoever. I don't. Oh, I don't. Or we'd have one that come in all the time, like, oh, I'm gonna get fired, and we would leverage my dad to buy more product than we probably would need. Um, just to save his job as he has to hit his quotas, and half the time, and it's like, is he really kind of making that up? And it turned out, yeah, he was always on the cusp of losing his job, but somehow, but at our expense, that to help him keep his job. And I don't know if it really helped us out on the end either, but anyway, that's 25, 30 years ago. I'm water under the bridge, moving on. I don't have any major commitments, and if I did, or when I do have one, it's all going to be what I need, and that's it. Like, you can try to into getting anything, but if I don't feel warm and fuzzy about it, I'm just walking away. Um, is I don't need an extra trouble in my life for that. What? Oh, I am not. Um, yeah, thanks for putting me on a high pedestal there, Randy. Yeah, I don't have like a Guino in the back to break legs or anything, but I do have words and a YouTube channel. And hey, huge monumental, uh, what was it called? Accomplishment. Yes. I don't know if you noticed, but I broke 10,000 subscribers, which is insane to me to think there's 10,000 of you peoples out there that enjoy my content enough to subscribe. And there's some others in the, influencer worlds or I'm chasing after that have thousands more, tens of thousands more. But hey, I'm I am very humble of what I've gotten so far. It is phenomenal. It is great because for me, that was a goal of mine to hit that 10G, and it's one of those things where thanks, Ray, appreciate it. It's just one of those things where you know, would anybody want to watch a guy in a garage do his thing and talk about bikes and business? And there is obviously, but then again, to a level of 10,000 is like the break, break point where you can start working on leveraging other aspects of the YouTube realm. And it's, this is something that all of you should think about. I mean, if you do decide to go that direction, it's like, okay, it's like a whole different thing. It's like brand deals. You're talking about products. You probably saw the little video that I did on the Viver bench, and I got a couple other products from them I got that I'm doing little, reviews, and you have opportunities of doing that. If you get a bigger footprints, then you can get like sponsored by. You put that in your video, like I'm sponsored by X, Y, and Z bike line or whatever. Great place to do that. But to rest assured, and my commitment to my community is like I'm not gonna pump anything out there that I don't believe in myself of using or trying or whatever. To some level, I'm not going to be a total bend over the backwards and sell ketchup. It's going to be related to. I've already done that. I'm like, no, that's not products doesn't fit my niche or my community. They're like, oh, okay. Then they go back and they find me something else, or it's just not going to work with. And so, yeah, I mean, that's how I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to be modest about it, but also look at it as an opportunity to help flourish this channel and have a bigger reach, right? So that's the thing. So it's for me to hit that 10,000 sub was like okay, and that just sets the whole list of another sets of goals of doing. And hey, maybe that was brought up in this chat today. It was maybe we just build a community out of just bike shop owners, that kind of thing, to listen in, or even it could be open. Specifically targeted for bike shop owners. But if you're a person that's into cycling and that wants to own up a bike shop, wouldn't it be a good idea to listen to the current bike shop people and listen to their woes and to really know what you're getting yourself into? Because holy cow, I can almost guarantee you, all you shop owners that just opened a shop in the last 2 to 3 years are probably going, what the hell did I do to myself? And thus, us have been around for a couple decades going, it'll pass or you'll close. One of the two. It's like, it's horrible. But, it goes up with misery loves company. But in addition to, hey, some of us have some good ideas, some of them have bad ideas. Some ideas just don't fit in your market, and some will work really well in your market. And you may not even know and until you get those ideas. So, Joe, thank you for congrats. Yeah, yeah, it's a big accomplishment. I mean, it was one of those things that and then the thing is here's the weird thing of it all is the matrix of brands that you are trying to Allure, which was a Schwinn model back in the day. Um, Also to Probe, which was another Schwinn model back in the day. Got to put in puns in there, of course. Um, they're not looking at how many subscribers you have anymore. It's like once you break 1,000, they're like, okay, then you're on your radar. As long as you hit how many views and the culture of people, and that what made it harder to hit 10,000. And some of these other channels are like crying because they're not getting as many subscribers because the culture of people are no longer subscribing. They're just relying on the algorithm to get stuff in front of them, and they're not going to subscribe. They're just going to watch. So it's all about view counts now. So if you get a video like this one last Sunday, hit over 100,000 views, you're going to get in a lot of, people are watching that Sling Blade and watching like, oh, they're getting some big video hits. We need to get our product in front of their audience, that kind of thing. So it's the whole, and quite honestly, coming from a bike shop world and diving into the YouTube world is completely a different beast. Sorry. Completely beast in itself. But I find it in itself being nice to be able to connect. That's what it comes down to cyclists. Honestly, half my business is now driven by the YouTube followers. I've had several customers drive from far and near alike to have me work on their bikes because they saw me here on YouTube. So in that aspect of it, um, yeah, I had to put a lot of hours that it does not translate to income to offset that. I mean, I'm making pennies on an hour when doing this, but on the flip side, I'm generating more business on the retail front of it or the service side. So that aspect of it. But then again, you know, all of us that are sitting here listening are in the cycling community or working on bikes and so forth. We're definitely not here for the money. We're here for the culture, and whatever that culture looks to us. Are you into working on high-end bikes? Are you into working on pump track bikes for kids? Are you, family bicycles? Are you a precision e-bike? You just work on e-bike motors, and thank God you're out there, because last thing I need to try to learn how to do is the whole e-bike motor business world, which if I needed to, I could, but I don't need to because I got you. Because you're in my neck of the woods. So if I have somebody that comes in with an e-bike issue and I did tune up, I'm like, oh, let me roll this down over to see Josh and say, hey, fix this, please, or tell me what I need or whatever. That's where that community of small shops is, and it could be close local or it could be further away. I have another shop that constantly rings out. It's like, hey, I'm doing a J&B order. Do you need do you need parts and stuff? And I appreciate that. I don't need to, but I appreciate the the helping hand if you need it, that kind of thing. And that's where we're all trying to resonate and get to, because you know the bigger shops, and even it relates to the big shops too. They need a helping hand, especially at times like this, like in another perspective, like what worked for you. And I'm seeing that in the YouTube realm. I'm seeing it with other channels coming out, saying, you know, this is my experiences. And yeah, they're trying to obviously build up their YouTube channel to have people watch them, but on the flip side, they are trying to provide a valuable information. I wouldn't say service, but like a portal for people to learn. And there's a couple of them out there for sure. And some, they're leveraging his membership stuff, and that. The more power to them if they can get it. I mean, that's, you know, nor here nor there. If you need to know that information, it's nice to know that it's out there. I mean, any of you guys have worked in the cycling industry as long as I have, like in the 90s, this is like pulling teeth to figure out anything. And you had to rely on your reps for any information, which is not the greatest source, because, it's Kool-Aid source. So therefore now, say, we got this huge network where you can easily build quickly and be very much more effective and be able to provide information for shops, to consumers, to riders, riding communities alike, for sure, absolutely. But yeah, that's the thing. And in where we're state of the state, you're looking at all the troublesome, specialized, giant, whatever brand, all brands and vendors alike are they're nervous and they've been hurting, and numbers are proof that they're not doing that great, and not doing that great is translating to they're going to be more aggressive. And aggressive and how is the question. Like, are they going to be aggressive of helping bike shops sell more stuff? I saw a great article. It's in Bicycle Retailer too, and it's under the oh, it's under the opinion piece of it. And this guy, old timer, I forget his name, but he's been around for years. Let me see if I can find it. And he was saying that if you have a brick and mortar store, you should have vendors should be paying you to use your real estate. Case in point, this is a real thing. I didn't know about this for a long time until I worked at Big Five Sporting Goods, and they leveraged companies like Coleman, Nike, or whoever, the brands they were buying from, to basically pay for a part of the real estate in their shop. Um, I'll find the link to it later, and I'm trying to look it up right now, but I can't seem to find it. Um, but basically, you're paying real estate, right? Your real estate is basically advertising space for all those vendors. And I know this has worked, and this is weird, and I don't understand how this bike shop did it, but there's a shop in Michigan. I think it was not in Flint, but it wasn't where I was in Ann Arbor. It was a little bit, maybe it was Brighton. Brighton? In any case, it doesn't really matter. But what they did is mostly service. That's all they did was service for the most part. And they had some crazy service turnarounds, like guaranteed 24 hours, boom, whatever. They had like one package, like cables. It was almost overhaul, like cable, housing, bearings, all that. And the crew would work all through the night to, get these bikes pumped out. And the price of the tune-up included cables, housing, a bar tape, and all this other stuff. It was nuts. It was kind of like how his model was. And yeah, grocery stores. Thanks, Bike Guy Mobile. Yeah, grocery stores do that for caps. Same thing for Big Five Sporting Goods. In caps would be a Coleman one for one. Then we rotate it out. Big Five is being paid or kicked back or discounted product to do that kind of thing. Going to this shop in Michigan, small shop, all they did was repairs, and a bike line wanted to get in there like badly, like pee their pants badly, like we want to be in there. So the owner was like, no, I'm not gonna, no. Then one day he goes, okay, I'll sell some of your bikes, but I only will pay for them when they sell. Brilliant. Think about that. Like, okay, you could front load my store all you want, like, but be mindful of I'm only paying for after I sell it. That's included. It's already built up and everything. So if you need a takeaway out of my store, there you go. Okay, so this is nothing new, right? Brand deals for big box or whatever has been leveraged and now could be used as small. So if you're um, somebody that's working at one of the big brands going, I need to come up with a good idea for my CEO. This is a gold nugget. So for the smaller shops, it's not going to cost them very much to float maybe a few bikes to throw on your floor to sell. And if they do sell, that's great. Then you get a paycheck. Um, and if they don't, you just swap out product. So it's you pay for that space. Why are you just giving it away as that was the whole point of the article is why are you giving away advertising space for these vendors for your retail front when you have foot traffic going through your store? So so if you have a brick and mortar, you have a little, it doesn't have to be big, small spot. I mean, anybody comes in, like, oh, I want to sell Night Rider lights if they're even still around, or whatever brand. And it's a small little kiosk, and it's like, well, you can put it up. I will, cut you a check when 1 or 2 units sell. And that's it. I'm not going to upfront it. I'm not going to carry the inventory on that, the costs on it. that kind of thing. If you want to take that risk, that's great. So the risk on that should be on them, because why are we always taking the risks for them? And they're in a scenario situation. If we're more shifting to service only, and we still have a pretty decent sized retail footprint, it could still be filled up by these other brands. Why are we fronting the costs on it? And by the way, the brand that actually fronted these bikes, and I'm going to throw them in not throw them in the bus, but hey, you can call them up and see if they can still do that, is Jamis Bikes. It wasn't an A-line B, it was a B. Like Beeline is bad or anything. It's just the sheer volume that they do, and it goes back in the '90s when we had like our A line that you carry, and then you have several B lines. And they knew they were B lines because they were always shooting to real estate space for what the big brands didn't have. In any case, so if you were able in a big market and they don't have other dealers in that location, you might be able to go forward and like kind of float that idea. Let's say, for example, like in your neck of the woods, there's no Kona dealers, and Kona is a brand that would probably do okay in your market, and there's no dealers, and you're like, hey, I don't have the money to front, but if you want to throw a couple bikes on my floor, and I'll pay you when they sell, work out a deal like that. It may work. I can always ask and try that kind of thing, or with any of those vendors. It's like it's like you bend over backwards for these guys for decades. And they just, there's other markets like the grocery store market or the big sporting good chain, because we had a huge front kiosk in the sporting good chain, like the kiosk. The first thing you walked in and the first thing you saw, I got switched out from Coleman to summer sports stuff, and it wasn't because that we wanted to sell more stuff. It was actually that brand was buying that real estate for the store. And that real estate purchase doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, paying you a check for that space. It's usually a discounted product. It's like, oh, we'll give you like another 40% off. And you can leverage that too to some of your vendors if you have a big enough footprint and enough foot traffic, and go, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about doing a big sale this coming weekend, or in 2 weekends or whatever. And because tell you the truth, the big boys are doing that already, because they do mad volume. But they are hurting so bad right now. They may listen to smaller shops or medium-sized shops to do something like that, because before they just snub. Because right now, they'd be like us, grabbing any customer that comes in the door. It's like, oh, hold on, I got to pause Justin. I can't listen to him right now because I got to go take care of this customer, or put the phone down or whatever, put the tool down and talk to that customer, because every customer counts right now, because we need every customer coming in the door. It's the same for them. Let's put it that way. It has to be. There's no other way. I mean, okay, QBP, they're shifting their inventory. That's the latest news I've heard, is they're not as deep in certain products. Some products are being discontinued, I've heard. I was in the local store lately and they're talking about like QBP, they're hard to find any like 8-speed stuff, or aged out stuff that, like, my realm of things that I work on, the 10 to 20 year stuff, for refurbishing, and the parts are becoming less and less available, and you're getting more off-brand, or Microshift was one they would go to for new. They're shifting dynamic. Also, they're moving their warehouse, and if any warehouse gets moved, it's because that's where those pencils went. Oh, sorry, sidebar. They're moving the warehouse because it's going to cost them less, or making a smaller size. So they're obviously a warehouse move is not something you do in a short term. It's a long out process. Like, okay, it's a year out or 2 year out thing, but it's changed. And then again, they cut their QBP. They bought. Well, they also own Smart Etailing, I think, or investor in there, which is now called Kickstand, which is a software company. If you know, and that's where Retail Toolkit got purchased. If you're listening to any of my stuff before, that's where all got folded in. But QBP also had a Barnett's, that's what it was. Barnett's school to teach mechanics how to work on bikes. They shut that down. They bought it and then they shut it down because it wasn't making them enough money. So they're hurting. Basically, this has been going on for the last couple of years. So they're kind of shifting. They've been adjusting. But something like this, man, it's got to hurt them in the pants big time. Well, they've also been doing for the last several years is bike shops. If you're a QBP, you probably know the details on it. I don't, because I'm not a dealer, and I've been out of a bike shop after before the program came in. But basically, they have a direct-to-consumer portal where you can build your website around, where competitive cyclists is done. 365 cycles is their, they're just a direct-to-consumer portal for QBP. Nothing new there because Treefort's been doing this in Michigan for decades, and Cambria is another one doing the same thing. They have like this micro retail front, which is smaller than my garage, but is still a retail front, but they did everything was online sales. So they've been doing that. So I would bet you dollars to donuts that, sorry, kicked the stand. J&B importers and BTI may be looking for opportunities, if not already have those out. So if those who have those accounts might be able to leverage those online sales. And it doesn't matter if you think about it, it's about volume, right? So if your 365 is doing great because they're doing a discount on chains to the point where it's just a little above wholesale enough to make a guy like me to buy it and not worry about it too much because of having a vendor, because I don't need to pay for a vendor, the costs that come with a vendor. As all of those who have vendors and understand, you got your pre-seasons, you got your commitments, you got your, you got to make sure you don't discount it, those kinds of things. Those contracts may have come all the way in the last year, but, those are the kind of ball and chain things you'd have to deal with a vendor when, it's like, oh, I have to pay $5 more for a chain. I call that sanity tax. Like, I don't have to deal with anybody else with that. I just buy it when I need it. And then I just roll that cost onto my customer, which I may not make as much, but but what they're doing is basically discounting a whole bunch of stuff on the QBB site portal where it's generating sales, which is basically, it's almost an affiliate sale program because they don't have to do anything except for get the customer into the transactional layer. Once that happens, they don't have to do anything. Case in point, the spread shirt, the shirts and coffee mugs and all that you see on my banner below, when you buy something from there, I get a little kickback. I get like $5 for a t-shirt. It's like, I don't do anything except for promoting it. And therefore, that's the same kind of concept you can do with your sales floor, with those vendors. What fits, though, of course, with your market and what fits with your genre, and you can get them to do that. But there's opportunities for wholesalers and bike shops with brick and mortar locations to leverage those things. And so more so to put it in a place where you make more money but doing less work, because you need to put more work into all the other things you already do, right? So case in point, here, me on YouTube, leveraging evergreen videos of how to put together a rear derailleur, like a XT vintage 8-speed rear derailleur, how to take it apart and put it back together, which is several other video people doing the same thing. But they see that video, I make a little bit of money every time that video gets ran through. You're talking about pennies, but you get enough of those things out there, you're generating enough some income, at least some, versus nothing at all. But the one derailleur, I forget the Shimano front one with the weird cable thing, I forget what model it is, but I watched the video, and this is an English guy, and this is predating Shimano making videos on how to adjust it or whatever. So I saw his video and I learned how to do it, and I'm like, okay, I need to make this a little cleaner for somebody that's actually doing it. And I made my own version of that video, and that gets hit a lot because it's really, they overcomplicated that for front derailleur, and you got that cable pull thing, and it whips around. And if you lose the little plastic thing on the top, you're screwed because the cable just dangles out there. Then if you go on eBay and you have to pay $14 for the little plastic piece to hold the cable in place. Yeah, you see, later date, I'll put the the derailleur part number in there, and you'll know exactly what the hell nightmare that one is. But it shifts great, but it's just overcomplicated. It's like, and then they went backwards, and then they got rid of the front derailleur altogether. So it's just one of those things. Like, oh man. Any case, there's great opportunities for all of us there to capitalize and keep us able to do this, make a living to be able to serve our communities. That's what it comes down to at the bottom line. Um, and yes, there's a whole bunch of people who are like trying to take advantage of bike shops, corporate, and you get them all day long. Like, we can give you a loan, or we can give you advertising space, or we can redo your website, or blah 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 blah. And you're like, man, I don't. Anybody who's approaching the cycling industry, they should know better by now that we don't pay for anything. We can't. It's when we do, it has to be very. We have to need it. Like, it's something that we approach to get, not somebody trying to sell to us. Tools, advertising space, any aspect of the business, right? Case in point, you're watching this on StreamYard. There's a little icon right here. I'm using their free version of this. When I get big enough and I'm able to make enough money from these particular live streams, yes, I'll pay for the higher grade 4K multiple platform version of this. But until then, I'm going to live here until I can afford to do so, because right now I can't afford the $80 a month for their premium services. So we're going to be, all bike shops have to review, and all bike shops have probably reviewed all their expenses in the last 2 months, or if it's off season for sure, and try to figure out what is going to be happening to us this season. It's likely service and selling used parts and used bikes versus the last few years. And the shops have chimed in that are doing real well that I've noticed so far. We've had our best year, do primarily used bikes and service. And then some parts, obviously new parts to relate to that from either J&B or QBP or BTI or whoever they buy their parts from. But that's what we're looking at in this ecosystem. And going forward, it's going to be very interesting to hear at the show bike shop people's perspective, and then listen and their perspective of the show, and also the vendors and what their perspective is of what they're going to try to accomplish at the show, knowing that we're going into an unpredictable market. We have no idea what's going to happen this summer. We know people are going to ride bikes. That's all I can guarantee you. But what they're going to need out of riding those bikes this coming season and two is pretty much up in the air, except for they're going to need service. That's always a staple. And they're always going to need parts to maintain their bikes to go forward. New stuff, that's going to be the question. Are they going to be willing to pay the $500 to $600 for a kid's bike? Are they going to be willing to pay for a $2,000 new bike when possibly they may not have a job in 2 months from now, or everything gets too expensive? We even had to reevaluate our grocery bill. I mean, it went up so much to the point where, like, oh, we got to do adjustments. I mean, everybody's feeling this right now, especially here in the States, probably across the board. But we got to, from home to work to everything else, people are going to still want to ride because relatively it's inexpensive to go ride, and have a good, mental break, not mental break to go crazy, but break from reality. And also, as in Precision e-bike mentions, like community thing or commuting or transportation piece too, where it's a lot cheaper than a car and the insurance and all that. And if people really kind of downsize, they're going to be looking to those directions, where the e-bike realm, even though the sales might be softening or getting weird at this point, well, depending on what category, I'm sure, but those high-end elite ride categories, I'm sure, are probably going to taper, because the more bread and butter, like bread and butter bikes and regular bikes, are going to be more popular, because mainly for price point. So, any case, that's my soapbox, and I can't believe I sat out here for 2 hours. It's not that warm, but hey, I'll do it for you guys. Any case, yeah. You know, I think those small shops, and I've noticed this with mine in the last 5 years doing what I do, been very more flexible and also open to the concept of doing other things, like to drive business in another direction. I'm doing a lot more service than I did before. It's more pinpoint service too, and more services as well to that. And capitalizing on some of the newest trends like waxing chains and stuff like that. That's a possibility. Detailing frames, which I got into just for fun, and now it's become a somewhat of a thing. So if you can find those things that will help enhance your service or labor or the bottom line, will keep you going and keep you providing the services that you do. Believe me, the good, the customers that really appreciate you are there. I do have a good community of customers that come to me, and they are super happy that I'm still around and doing what I'm doing and providing this. And they're the ones that you can't pay them enough to what they do, because they go out, and when they're in their cycling groups or their club rides or their team meetings or whatever it is, or the charity meetings, they're the ones like, oh, we need to like plug you, like get you in there, get you in the room, in the audience, and in front of these other cycling. They're the ones that are spreading the word of your shop, which I've gotten at locally as well as here on the social media. But it's been more of a like grassroots. Man, it's like back in the day, like you do those things because you don't see it right off the bat, as in money coming in the door, but you're building that community. So for me, this winter was probably the less stress winter I've had, because I had enough work during the winter to just keep me busy. I was busy all winter. I mean, between doing this, watching, making videos and stuff, but in addition to doing tune-ups and repairing bikes and getting people ready for their next event, and getting ready for the season, or they have the latest project and that kind of thing. Those are the group of customers I'm cultivating, which are just awesome. And I love that, because it's like, you know, it helps me to keep doing what I enjoy doing and loving to do, and then cutting out the stress of it to some level. So any way you can cut out any kind of stress points to make it easier, more efficient to do the passionate pieces that you enjoy doing, it makes it. I'll leave you with that note. But then again, thank you for all you for watching, to making this channel what it is, and the community it's built up. We'll take some of these insights and we'll work on them. And maybe we'll come up with some great, cool plan, that kind of thing, But in any case, we'll keep plugging along, keep focused. Until next time, I'll see you here again in Las Vegas next Tuesday. Pre-show warm up, and then I'll have a whole bunch of content, and I'm thinking maybe doing some lives, maybe, but definitely a lot of recording. And if you guys, you're out here, I'd love to touch base and maybe just do like a 5 or 10 minute like recap of what you think of the show, and if you're part of a vendor or what that's great too. Love to see what you're trying to do or trying to get out of it. And we're all kind of in the same boat, but in a different boat. We all have holes that are leaking. I don't know. Pick your analogy. It's all weird. But in any case, I need to go warm up, get some fresh coffee. Old man bladder's kicking in, all that, and start plotting my painting the condo concept. I'm not doing murals or anything, just a blank color, more modern color. But in any case, thanks for hanging out with me. It makes you make this channel. I'll have information. Add information to the description below. If you're watching this on the replay, please comment. Add to the community here. It takes all of us to make the bike shop community. So we'll continue to plug away. And thanks for joining me. And thanks for putting in the chats and so forth. I am happy, tickle pink, to be here, doing what I'm doing. So, and again, thank you. And if it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride. Until next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you next week right here. If it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Thanks again.